the cloud. All right. So good afternoon, ladies, from wherever you are. I am currently in the UK, and I guess Lucy is also in the UK. But for everywhere you are, Sierra Leone, South Africa, Uganda, Nigeria, Kenya, Botswana, I say welcome, 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 welcome. Today, we are privileged to have a design thinking expert. And, you know, I use that word not lightly, right? So let me do a bit of introduction so you understand why I call her a design thinking expert, right? She is the founder of Flourish Unlimited, right? And she is a design thinking practitioner, a Meta certified community builder, and a business strategist with over 25 years of experience within the VCSE and the private sector. Lucy is now focused on supporting women. So you can see why today is supposed to be a rest day. It's a holiday weekend in the UK, but hey, she's here contributing, volunteering her time, right? Free of charge to help and support you ladies to achieve your purpose whilst also creating impact. Lucy is one of the only 16 people in the world to have graduated Patterson University's Inspiration USA Business Growth Program. Her mission is now simple. She supports female founders like you all in this room to achieve sustainability, profitability, and balance using an innovative blend of creative design thinking tools and a range of community building strategies. She has a particular emphasis on supporting underrepresented females to start and scale enterprises. She recently created Flourish Unlimited CIC, her first social enterprise project, New OK, which commenced in April this year. And in this project, she's providing support specifically tailored to neurodivergent female entrepreneurs. So ladies, let's give a warm welcome, right? I want to see your applause in the chat room. A warm welcome to Lucy as she takes us on a design thinking masterclass. Thank you, Lucy, and you're welcome.
That's great. Honestly, what an introduction. I'm a little bit overwhelmed by being here myself after that, but thank you ever so much. It's lovely to be here with you ladies. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else there is to say. I'm Lucy, I'm a design thinking coach and facilitator, and I work predominantly with startups and SMEs that are female founded. You'll find me, as you can see there, on LinkedIn. I host I hold a host of business and enterprise leadership qualifications. But since 2018, I've basically focused solely on supporting my female founding clients to use design thinking as part of their business journey. And in a way, it helps them to create sustainability and then to move to profitability. As Aloisi there said, I took part in the Inspiration USA programme out at Patterson University, which is the UK's #1 ranked university for entrepreneurship in the world, and it has been that way for the last 26 years. It's where Richard Branson's business coaches work and such like. So since that training, I am one of only 16 people in the world who is qualified in a particular set of skills. Now, I'm passionate about bringing the benefits of design thinking to as many startups, not-for-profits, and female-founded organisations and around the world, really. So it's amazing for me to be here today. It really is, and to see the emphasis that's placed on enterprise in other countries around the world that I honestly feel is a little bit lacking in the UK at times. We're kind of much more traditional businesses and sort of industry, so it's great to be here for that. So I've got my notes with me. Okay, so if you see me every now and again looking down over at the screen, it's just because I'm making sure that my hands don't come out and I don't get all excited with myself and that I just kind of go off on a tangent, but that we do actually make the most of this session. All right. Please do connect with me on LinkedIn if you have any questions or queries following the session, but there will be a chance at the end to ask me any questions that you might have. But otherwise, if it's all right with you ladies, I would really just like to get through the presentation and get, you know, so that you've gotten all of the information you need to be able to use design thinking or look at using design thinking within your businesses. We're going to get a little bit interactive. So if you have a pad and a pen handy, that will be useful. If you also have your mobile phone handy, that will also be useful, okay? No worries if not, you will still get plenty of benefit from the session. It just makes it a little bit more interactive, and it stops it being me talking to my screen, you know, for the duration of, okay? So as I say, we'll ask questions at the end, but first, I would like to start by asking you a question. And that is, do you want to fail in business? Okay. The obvious answer would seem like no, right? But design thinking might actually change your mind about that. So we're going to have a little bit of interaction. If you have your mobile phone handy, then please go to slido.com. And then once you are there, you can either add the passcode that you can see on screen, or you can just scan the QR code. Okay. This is going to be how we're going to sort of collate the information that comes back from you today. It's completely anonymous. None of your data is saved with any of your details or anything like that to it. But essentially, I'm using design thinking as we're going along through this presentation. And this is one of the ways that we do that. Collecting data, working with AI, and finding out as much as you can about the customers that you're helping is part and really at the heart of what design thinking is all about. So if you've all managed to get to slido.com and get into there, okay, I'm going to ask you that question again. Do you want to fail in your business? Okay, you should now on your mobile see two options. Yes, I want to fail fast, fail forward and take the lessons I learn with me. Or no, of course I don't. If you can select which option works for you, you can see the things coming in now. Yes, some people were quick and wanted to fail. 40% of you don't want, oh, they're going backwards and forwards here. We're not quite sure, are we? No, we don't want to fail. Do we want to fail and learn lessons? That's absolutely fabulous. I love seeing these come in real time. It's just so handy. Okay. I'm going to presume that the majority have got their responses in at this stage, all right? So most people, it seems, are erring on the side of caution because I think I've just sort of said to you that design thinking should change your opinions about failing, and have said that they're willing to fail, they want to fail fast, they want to fail forward, and they want to take the lessons they learn with me, which is just music to my ears, all right? The reason why it's music to my ears is because the top 3 reasons that startups fail is either because of poor product or service, it's because of a lack of innovation within your business model, or it's about a lack of consideration for your customers. Okay, so poor product or service, anyone can have a great idea, but you need to actually be able to market that idea effectively, and people need to want to buy what you're selling. You basically need to solve a problem that they feel so in pain by that they want to go out and they want to actually solve that problem and feel better about themselves. Okay. The business model may lack innovation. So unless you are trying to make a current service or product simpler or more accessible for a client, you don't want to be reinventing a wheel, okay? You don't want to be saturating a marketplace that's already out there. And lack of consideration for customers, I'm not sure you can tell on the screen actually, but I did have it highlighted in bold because it's the most important of these things. And it's the one area that many startups and many small business owners forget all about. It is so easy, and I understand this, I've done it myself, I've been there myself. It's easy to get caught up in what you need for the business or as a business. So bigger profit margins, higher turnover, better social media content, more number of followers, a bigger workforce, all of those things that generally investors want from a business. But in actual fact, if you don't consider your customers, you can't attain any of those things, because customers will vote with their feet and they will take their custom elsewhere. Luckily for you, every single one of these things, all three areas, are covered within design thinking. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm full of questions for you this evening, but here's our next question. What do you already know about design thinking? Okay, so I'm kind of curious as to what experience you might have had of it in the past, what you might have read about it, what brought you to this session that we're having today. So let's return to our Slido poll, and you should find that there is another question that is, what do you already know about design thinking? Let's get some responses in there. So we've got nothing. Oh, test. I don't know what that might mean about a prototype or something. I'm not sure there. Someone loves it. That's absolutely fantastic. Any more responses? What do you already know about design thinking? And what you'll see is the more people that mention the same words, nothing's come up quite loud, loud and big. That's more people saying that they're not quite, they're not au fait with it yet. We've got people who've heard of it, read a bit about it. We've got people who are nothing yet, not sure. We've got innovation. Yeah, innovation is definitely at the heart of design thinking. We've designed from the lens of the customer. I don't know who wrote that, but you can have a gold star already. Gold star, I'm going to hand out gold stars already. That's absolutely fantastic. Okay. Let's have a look. What else have we got? I'm going to have to move my Zoom screen around to see this. Thoughts about an idea into a visual representation? Yes. Don't have an idea? Okay. So it would, user-centric. Somebody's already using the jargon that I love. Not that I expect anyone else to sort of use the jargon or anything, because the jargon isn't important. It's how you make use of the tools and of the exercises. And we'll go through some of these things today with you, okay? So often we hear the term and we're not quite sure what it might mean. I'm terrible. I really am like the world's worst person for using the phrase design thinking. Oh yes, I'm a design thinking facilitator. It just slides off my tongue and people just kind of nod and smile politely at me and have no clue what it actually means. So let's see what it actually means, okay? So design thinking is a human-centered approach to innovation that draws from the designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements for business success. And that is an official, if you like, definition from Tim Brown, who is one of the heads of Ideate. And Ideate are generally thought to be the masters of design thinking. They sort of termed the official definition because, in fairness, there's been design thinkers around since the 1950s, but Ideate brought it to a mass audience, and they started working with Amazon, with Apple, with Samsung, and getting them to use design thinking within their businesses. So it is kind of why we always go back to their definition of. Just to give you kind of, if any of you like to want to go away and read more about these things, Michael Lurick is another great design thinker. And if you're looking for sort of further reading on the subject or just a simple point to start from, then Michael Lurick's Design Thinking Toolkit, which I think I have somewhere here that I can show you what you are looking for. Okay. That will make a really handy Bible, if you like, for you to start out with, okay? He simplifies the practice. He allows you to hone your skills, and he provides some really, really simple exercises that you're able to work through and really kind of sort of help bring innovation into the business when you're not quite sure. And it's some of his methods, because I do work quite closely with him, that we're going to be looking at today. Okay, so design thinking we have a definition for, but realistically, what does that mean to us? Well, design thinking follows this process. So it's non-iterative, which means it doesn't have a start, an end, a middle that you follow consecutively. Okay, it is basically thought to be a mindset and a methodology that allows you to go backwards, forwards, round as many times as you may need to, so that you can look at various problems you have within various growth stages of your business. Okay, it means that you will always have an answer or a solution to a problem whenever one may arise, but it also means that you are going to actually solve the right problem, and that you're going to do it with the customer central to everything you do, because there's no point rather in solving a problem the business has and forgetting how that might impact on the customer. So these are the elements we're going to work through today. Okay, I am assuming at this point that you all have an idea of what it is that you are selling, or you know what service you're offering, and who your ideal client is. Okay, if you haven't already created a user persona, a client avatar, or you haven't just in layman terms, in simple terms, looked at who you are going to be selling to, who you are solving a problem for, then you would do that before you get to this stage. But even if you haven't gotten to that stage yet, you'll still get plenty of benefit from this presentation. Okay, so let's start with empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. So we're all here today. We're all being empathetic towards other attendees. We know some people don't know anything about design thinking at this stage, so might be a bit cautious about taking part. We know that I might be nervous about presenting to a Zoom room full of new people. You know, we know that some people know more than others, but we're all being respectful to each other. We're all showing empathy for each other. And this is one thing that generally, as human beings, we are really good at being quite empathetic towards other people's needs and feelings. Yet when we start a business, we forget that our customers have needs and feelings. And back to one of the earlier slides, that is then one of the main reasons that businesses fail. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of empathy mapping. All right, empathy mapping is a visual tool that's designed to show detailed insights into how customers feel about your product or service, and if they think it's sustainable for them. So it covers the user experience, and it covers their pains and their gains. All right. So hopefully you're all still following along with me. If you have your pad and pen handy, please grab it now. Okay. We're going to get a little bit creative. No one is going to see this, remember, so don't worry about whether, like me, I can't draw a stick man. I can't play hangman because I'm no good at drawing stick men. But thanks to Miro, which is an amazing empathy mapping tool that I use on a regular basis with clients, here's an empathy map outline that I'd like you all to just quickly copy down. Okay, so it's an empathy map. At the center of that map, where it says name, should be your business name, your potential business name, or if you haven't thought of that at the moment, just you and kind of what it is that you want to do. Okay. And then each of these sections represents your customers. So what are your customers saying? What are your customers doing? What are your customers thinking? And what are your customers feeling about your product or service? So as an example, I could say that for clients to work with me as a design thinking coach and facilitator, they're saying that they're struggling to scale effectively without one part of the business kind of being damaged as a result. They're thinking that they've tried so many things before, they're unsure where to turn next. They're running around in circles trying to ensure that everything they're doing is helping the business to stay afloat. And they're feeling a little bit exhausted, a little bit overwhelmed, and very likely disappointed with the solutions that they've tried so far. So I'm hoping that makes sense, because we're just trying to engage all of the senses, but by thinking of it from our customer's point of view. All right. This is a great way of getting into the mind of your customer with empathy for what their problem is, so that you can solve that problem, and so that you're not just solving what you think or what you kind of define the problem as. Okay, because there's so much miscommunication. If I was to say to you, oh crikey, I feel quite cold today, would your response be to immediately want to give me a blanket? Would your response to immediately want me to put the heating on? Or would your response want to be to check that I'd actually had food? There are so many different interpretations of why I might be cold and why I might have that problem. But you aren't the ones who should be deciding what the solution is for your customer. You need to let the customers decide what that solution is. Okay. So now we've empathized with our customers, and this is something that you can continue and you can use again and again within the business. But now we've empathized with the customer, what we need to do is we need to actually define the right problem. And I know I keep saying the right problem, and I go back to that so many times, is don't just solve what you come up with as a solution. Make sure you are solving your customer's problem, all right? Ask questions, mind map, narrow down your point of view to just one sentence, all right? If you can define what it is that you're going to solve, what it is that your business is going to do in one sentence, or even better, if you could describe it to a 5-year-old and that 5-year-old would understand what it is that you're going to do, then you've got a great point of view, okay? You've got a great idea. You've got something that's going to essentially have legs and is going to grow. So just basically, well, I guess what another way sort of looking at it, okay, let me put it this way. Another way of looking at it is if that Mr. Ford had asked in the USA back in the day, what is your problem? What do you need? The majority of Americans would have said to him, my horse just isn't fast enough, all right? I just can't get my product to my customer quick enough. I need a faster horse. And if he had just created something that made horses faster, we would never have gotten the motor car, all right? So this is really just making sure that you are doing what your customers need you to do, all right? So next we get to ideate. All right, the next step, and this is the best. There are so many amazing exercises you can do with this that we're just not going to be able to get across the energy and sort of how invigorating this process can be when we're just here in a Zoom room. But you get to go wild. You know, we all hear about blue sky thinking. Now's the time to get us kind of, you know, to go beyond the blue sky, you know, be that billionaire, get into your rocket, strap yourself in, get off into the atmosphere, go stratospheric with your ideas. The crazier, the better, all right? You can look at using tools to help you with the ideation, such as Scamper. Scamper is a really, really simple tool. Scamper, by the way, is basically, you're going to look at, I'm going to have to get my notes for this to get these in the right order. Hang on a second. Okay, so we're going to look basically at what we could replace, how we could replace what's already in the marketplace and use different elements as a substitute for what currently exists. We're going to look at, could it be part of a bigger solution? We're going to combine or bundle what exists with other elements or components to create something better. We're going to look at what can be modified and used in a different way. What can we alter or change? We're going to look at what happens if dramatically something changes in size, tone, shape, frequency, and we're going to modify what exists in overall scale and scope. So if you think very sort of simply at the moment about the sort of the streaming services that we have out there, they're always modifying the way they do things. They're always looking at how their memberships work differently. You know, I don't know about in Africa at the moment, but certainly here in England, Netflix have just changed their subscription model slightly. More of us are going to have to pay because we can't share it with our friends anymore. There's absolute uproar. So look at those kinds of things that are equitable in your industry and look at how you can sort of just change things and just tweak things. Look at what else your solution could be used for. So what's already existing and you know, could you give it a use that it wasn't originally intended for? And what can be removed that actually improves things? So you're looking to actually eliminate some elements of what you've already got to make something as easy as possible for the client or for the consumer. And then finally, the R, reverse. Okay, so how can we move things around to add value or to create improvements? Reverse the order that you do things in. You know, once we've got all of our ideas together, whether we've reversed the order, whether we're still kind of stratospheric with some crazy notions, whether we think they'll work or not, whether we've just created them and come up with them for a little bit of a chuckle for ourselves, we're going to go and we're going to select the ideas that we're going to actually prototype. Prototyping is one of those things that basically kind of allows you to test things out. It's where we come back to failure. We started with failure, we've got failure here in the middle, and it's where you learn lessons, all right? But what I would love to do first is I would just love for us to ideate together, all right? So we're back here. I'm hoping that many of you know the business Garden of Coffee, okay? So Garden of Coffee was founded in, I think it was 2016, in Ethiopia by Bethany Alemu, and I do apologise if my pronunciation is shocking. They now ship to more than 20 countries worldwide, and this year they've targeted themselves to open, I think it's something like 100 roasteries, coffee roasteries in China, bearing in mind that China is a tea drinking country, okay? So I'm hoping that some of you are aware of Garden of Coffee due to its meteoric rise to fame, but given what you know about it, what do you think they could do differently? If you were a rival coffee company, what could you do differently in your business that would start taking customers from Garden of Coffee? And what could you do to try and put Garden of Coffee out of business? Now, I know that sounds harsh, right? And I'm not suggesting for a moment that anyone go away and do that, because there's room for everybody in the coffee market. I'm a coffee addict, so I'm sorry, but I stand by that, all right? It's a great way, though, of actually reframing an ideation session, because the emphasis is taken away from what you are doing wrong or what you could do better. And the emphasis is placed on somebody else, and you're looking at what they could do better. So if I had to ask you, if you were going to put Garden of Coffee out of business, what kind of things would you try? Let me know. Let me know, share within Slido for me. Okay, so somebody's not familiar with the company, all right? So don't even worry about it being Garden of Coffee or not being familiar with them. Just think, if you were going to try and put a massive coffee company, Starbucks, you know, if you're familiar with Starbucks, if you were going to try and put them out of business, what would you do? Yeah, pricing, definitely. You could be more competitively priced, you could underprice them, undercut them. Customers, yeah, the way that you would look at customers differently, the way you would actually give a customer a better experience, you would offer alternatives. Yeah, brilliant. Oh, some great answers coming in here. Various different ways that, you know, that people would drink the coffee. So a lot of you, I'm loving, I would give complimentary items. I don't know which coffee shop you're going to open, but when you do, I will come and I will visit it. Customer service and design, yes. Find a way to reduce, oh my goodness, the queues in coffee shops. Yes, find a way to reduce the queue. Start by introducing your coffee in products like chocolate. Have a tea product. Yes, very definitely. Okay, segment customers, target accordingly. Yeah, these are all, oh my goodness, these are absolutely fantastic responses to this. But hopefully you're seeing how easy it is to think, well, how would I put somebody else out of business? What could they do better? Is always an easier question to ask than what could we do better? Okay, pricing is giant on the screen there now. I don't know whether some people are familiar of Garden of Coffee or just their local coffee shop that definitely overpriced. Let's have a look. What else do we got that keep jumping around the screen at me? Offer alternatives, supply. I'm guessing supply other, like not just the individual, but business to business rather than business to consumer. Absolutely fantastic. Survey the customers, love it. Yes, absolutely brilliant. I tell you what, we are flying now through this design thinking process. Okay, you are all absolutely amazing. I'm loving the responses that you're coming up with. So as we get flying, what we're going to do next is we're going to prototype, right? Now, obviously, we're not going to have time for that in today's session, but it's again where the magic lies, and you will find the majority of your learning and your great sort of ideas that then become part of the business will actually come from failed prototypes. And this is one thing that certainly when I was first sort of learning how to facilitate design thinking workshops, so roomfuls of people who are all terrified of failing, who are all in that room and are quite anxious that they're being put in a situation that they're not familiar with. They're going to ask to be, to take part in things that they may not know the answers to. They're going to be asked to be quite vulnerable. And this is the beauty part of design thinking, is that nobody knows the right answer. We are always prototyping, we are always testing, we are always going around this process. We are always kind of wanting to know and wanting to get to a space where, again, nobody knows the answer. So it's one of those things where I always remember being told that I will not learn anything if I am the cleverest person in a room. And I think that really works well for design thinking, because we don't want you to be the cleverest person in the room. We want you to be the person that's willing to come up with the crazy ideas. We want you to be the person who is willing to fail and to be a bit vulnerable and to then tell us, what have you learned? Because then your customers don't have to be vulnerable. They don't have to fail. You do it so that they stick with you because they trust you in what you've created, because they know you've pretty much tested it for them at every stage with their needs, at the heart of what you're doing. So for any prototyping stage, for any part of prototype, any part of the process, we need to consider these three things. First of all, we need to look at your MVP, so your minimal viable product. Okay, so your MVP, need my teeth in to say that properly, is the collection of the minimum amount of features that you need to include in your product or service to be able to still solve a problem and also make something saleable. So we're talking about the most simple way that you have of creating something that you can get to market. All right, we're not talking about it having bells and whistles. We're not talking about it having to, it irons clothes, but at the same time it will fold clothes and it will put clothes away. We just want the main pain point, the creased clothes, solving. Hopefully that makes sense when we're talking about MVP. Your MVE is your minimal viable ecosystem. And that basically means that you have to consider the minimal logistics, the minimal input from external people and external organizations, that you need to bring your product or service to market. So we don't want to have a great big overcomplicated delivery process, perhaps. We literally just want to pop it in a box, send it to somebody who then puts it on a van and sends that van to somebody's home to deliver. We don't need it to go to an external agency for them to weigh it and do everything else with it, for the customer to then get a message to say that it's going to be 7 days before it gets to them, and to then find out in 7 days, well, it hasn't come yet. Where is it? Because we've overcomplicated a process and we've gotten external people involved in sending out reminders and this kind of thing, and it's failed and it's let down the customer. So whenever you're looking at the minimal viable ecosystem, those people that you need involved in your service and in your product and in getting that to market, always consider where the customer lies within that as well. And then your sleeper, and that might sound like, what on earth is she talking about? What is my sleeper? All right. And I don't mean the fact that I've bored you all to this stage with design thinking jargon and such like. What your sleeper is one of those crazy ideas you've come up with that in your heart you would love to work, because in an ideal situation it would solve your company problems, the customer problems, but you're just not sure that A, the customer might not be ready for it, there might be a big education piece to do around it, or that B, you have the capacity at the moment to be able to do that idea. Always, always, always prototype that idea, because that, again, you might know in advance it's going to fail, but the ideas and the ways that you then have, the information you have to be able to return to that idea at a later date and know that you've then developed this amazing product that you can launch to the market and everybody's just going to go crazy over. Whereas if you don't, if you just dismiss it as, oh, it's never going to happen today, we don't have the technology for that at the moment, you're not going to, it kind of gives you something to work towards. Okay. Test everything that you do within these prototypes, test everything that you do. Gather as many opinions and as much feedback as possible from your ICAs, from your ideal client avatars. Test with users, okay? Test them with your ideal clients. Get them to create statements like we see here. So I like, I wish it did, I don't like, I want it to, and just ask them to complete those sentences, complete those statements with just a couple of words. Never overcomplicate anything. Just make it as simple as possible for people. And for example, if your service is going to rely on the use of a website or an app, think about investing in a heat map app. Get those the right way around, a heat map app, so you can actually see how and where your customers are engaging with your website or your app, because I guarantee you that it will not be where you want them to or where you thought they're going to. They're not going to be presented with a website, presented with an app, and just immediately use it like you would, because you've developed it, you've been testing it, you know how you should use it. The best insight comes from people who don't know. And that's why I can't sort of stipulate enough how important it is to test those prototypes with people that you know have your pain point, are going to want your solution, okay? Capture feedback on a grid system, and I'm a big lover. Everywhere I go, I've generally got a post-it note stuck to me from leaning against a table doing a workshop or something at some point. But get out the pens, get out the post-its, allow people just to not feel judged and not feel as though there's any pressure on them, but that they're just scribbling their responses on post-it notes, okay? So you can then actually collate those responses according to, for example, negatives and positives. Or you might want to cluster them into feelings that were expressed. You might want to look for commonly used words that clients have used on those post-its. And that gives you a really great insight into whether your product or your service is landing with the customer in the way that you need it to. All right. So if at any point you have, you're wanting to sell people, we'll go back to coffee, you're wanting to sell people coffee and you're getting responses such as gritty or, pond water, then they're negatives. You need to eliminate those from the next time you go around this design thinking process. You need to eliminate that from any prototype. If you're getting responses such as, oh my goodness, it made me feel so good, oh my goodness, it tasted like, oh, it was like gold, it tasted like liquid gold, you then have the words, the exact words that your potential customers are using about a product or service that you can use when you come to market to them. Because I don't know about you, but I always am more likely to buy from people who sell me something using words and using terminology that I would use myself. So if somebody starts sort of wanting to break down the, the technical benefits of a new laptop, I'm just going to switch off, shut down, and I'm no longer listening. But if somebody tries to say to me, well, actually, for what you want it to do, it's going to be great for Zoom. You're going to have a really clear screen. It's going to allow you to have great functionality with these particular apps that you use. That's the kind of information I want. That's the kind of language and phrasing, sort of paraphrasing what people come up with at this stage. Okay, it's all gold dust stuff for service development. And as I say, if you can use that language to then sell to future customers, you are definitely onto a winner. Okay. And finally, we need any design thinking process to actually have a period of reflection at the end of it. Okay, so you need to be thinking about what have you learned, what's worked, what didn't work, what would you do differently next time, who would you involve in the process next time. And this is the stage in the design thinking process where you should have actually realized that you've either confirmed and you've got proof of concept, so you know that what you are trying to sell is going to be sellable to the people you want to sell it to, or do you need to kind of go back again through certain parts of the process and think, well, actually it's proved that we thought we were going to be able to sell to men between the ages of 30 and 45, and what we found from the prototyping and from the testing is that in actual fact, strangely, it's women 48 plus that love what we're doing. That then impacts on your sales and on your marketing and all that kind of thing, okay? At this point, you are then able to build your business model canvas. If you are a startup, a business model canvas is a great design thinking tool that allows you to basically create a business plan without the need for that business plan to read like a Lord of the Rings trilogy. Okay, it's short, it's really agile, it's very creative. And if you have already started the business and you've been through this design thinking process for a new product, a new service, it means you can really simply add it to the business model canvas. It means you can tweak, you can amend, you can improve, and it means that you're really responsive to market changes, to external market forces, to the changes in needs of your customers, and you can then, make those changes, make those amendments at any stage of your development and growth. So I've popped a business model canvas in here simply so that if you haven't seen one previously, you now have access to one. And if you have any questions or anything about this, as I say, feel free to connect on LinkedIn and I will answer them for you. We don't have sort of the time or capacity today to go through in webinar format creating a full business model canvas, but you can basically see how the process of design thinking fits within this. Obviously, any business needs to cover its costs. You need to know what revenue you're bringing in. Everything needs to balance. But the bottom section of this is basically the design thinking process. So we've looked at your problem and the pain points, what the solutions are that your business is going to provide. What are the benefits of those solutions? We've looked at kind of what's going to make you unique, what's going to differentiate you from competitors. We've looked at what you might measure, what are those metrics, what data are you going to get from people. So just in the same way as we've used the Slido app today, and I now have some additional data from you guys, you need to be getting that additional data from potential customers and using it to your advantage as soon as possible. You know we jumped into this design thinking process at the point where we thought you already would know what your target customers were and sort of what your niche was. And we've gone through the process from that point. So hopefully it's helped you kind of with being able to identify routes to market and that kind of thing. And you basically just repeat the exercises and the whole process whenever you need to. It is so easily replicated once you actually get the hang of it and once you've practiced a few of these exercises. And as I say, we've gone through a couple today, but compared to what's actually out there and available to you, we haven't even touched, we haven't scraped the top of the iceberg really. You will find the kind of exercises and tools that you like best. And again, that's why I always go back to recommended Michael Lurick's Design Thinking Toolkit as a great starting point, because it contains so many of those exercises and tools that you can try, see what you like, see what works, see what doesn't, and just get comfortable and get au fait with them and just put them into this process. It means that you can scale effectively, because not only are you looking at the product and service, but you're looking at that minimal viable ecosystem. You're looking at the, how is this going to work if we have this on repeat? How is this actually going to work? How is getting another 2 team members, how is that going to impact on the current team members? What does it make us do more effectively? But what do we need to change to make sure that other people still work effectively? How does that overall impact the customer and what they will receive? Are we putting 2 team members in place because we want help with admin and it's not going to have any effect on the customer? Okay. Everything you do should have some kind of positive impact on your customer. It means you can respond quickly, you can respond innovatively, you can respond to changes in the problem that your customer might have. You can adapt your solution to fit. Because, let's face it, it's easier to keep a customer, it's easier to retain a customer, and it's cheaper to keep and retain a customer than it is to continually go out and find new ones. If Jeff Bezos hadn't used design thinking to understand and empathise with his customers and to respond to the changes in their needs that were caused by the changes in their lifestyles, Amazon would just be only an online bookseller. So it's easier, it's cheaper to retain customers. Design thinking allows you to do that. Be aware of their pain points, okay? Make sure that you know what's causing them pain before they start being really affected by pain. Then come at them with this great solution before they even realise that they need it. Because if you don't, somebody else will, okay? So in closing, because I've rambled on, I feel, for quite a long time, I haven't been able to see the chat, but I can see that there's some things in there which I'll get to and we'll be able to look through in a second once I close this presentation down. But what we are aiming for you to do is for you to fail fast, to fail forward, to take the lessons you learn with you, and your startup superpower is to include your favourite tools from the design thinking process into every decision that you make as you grow. Okay, so I'm asking now any questions, but I'm going to go and jump and have a look in the chat, and I'm sure and I'm hoping that Oluwase has sort of some questions that she can read out for me. But again, just to reiterate, if you would like to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn, that's where you can find me. And if you drop me a message at today, tomorrow, 6 months time, literally just say to me, I was on the Pan-African Women Empowerment Enterprise training and I just wondered, because it might be that you're not quite ready for using design thinking yet, but you've kind of heard things that have triggered your interest. Or it might be that, you're going through a particular process at the time and you just think, you know what, I'd just like some feedback from somebody else. I am that person who is happy to provide that feedback for you. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can access the questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lisa. This has been, I think this was a great session at the right time. And I thank God that we had to reschedule it, because by this time, we've gone through all the sessions that you talked about, defining their customer persona, doing the lean business model canvas, so for the people who are in this, session now, and for those who would watch it later, a lot of them have gone through that process. They've actually even started the process of being assigned to coaches who are now practically helping them on
fantastic
unique challenges they're facing in their businesses. So this couldn't have come at a better time.
I am so pleased to hear that, and I'm listening to you as I'm trying to look in the chat at the same time.
Okay.
And we've got people from places that always sound amazing to me, and house to other people. But plenty of hellos, Sierra Leone. Lerato Mathiba, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm just here in not so sunny Hartlepool on the northeast coast in the UK. But thank you for such a warm welcome. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And I'm just having a squiz through to see whether there was any questions in there.
So far there were no questions. So ladies, please put your questions in the Q&A box, right? So that we can pick up the question there. And Lucy, I particularly like the fact that you use Jeff Bezos' Amazon as a unique study. One of the things I tell people is, who starts from selling books to owning the largest e-commerce business in the world, right? It's only someone who responds to and looks and listens to the customer. Even though Nokia is no more, but Nokia started as a paper company, right? If you look at the evolution of Samsung, one of the biggest Android makers in the world, they didn't start with mobile phones. They didn't start with electronics, right? So ladies, wherever you are, just listen to your customers. Your ability to listen to your customer is a singular key that will transform your success. Because as long as you're meeting the customer's pain points, they're willing to part with some dollars, pounds, Naira, whatever currency, they're willing to part with money as long as you're solving the problem. And you can only evolve to the extent to which you have customers willing to pay for whatever service it is that you are rendering. So thank you so much, Lucy. I just think this was the cap, right, on all the sessions, because after the session we're going into now the pricing, data analytics, the hardcore
the nitty-gritty.
Yes, the nitty-gritty of business. The next session is on pricing, but we have some questions already, so I'm going to take them. So we have Tolu Alade, and I assume she's from Nigeria. She's saying, you said design thinking has no right or wrong answers. So how does it help one grow one's business, especially when the ideas are crazy? How do you integrate the idea into your business? The last startup business plan you shared, was that your format? Are you saying design thinking would help to retain customers?
Okay, so if I break that down into, I think, sort of the 3 questions. So yes, I did say that design thinking has no right or wrong answers. How does that help you grow your business when ideas are crazy? And how do you integrate that idea into the business? So it helps you grow your business when ideas are crazy, because remember, the crazy ideas are taking place during an ideation phase. You start crazy and you can rein things back in. And that is when we then look at your minimal viable product, the minimal viable ecosystem, and your sleeper. So we're just pulling those ideas back, deciding on your own as part of a team by speaking to customers which ones you're going to prototype. So we're not saying go with all of the crazy ideas and prototype everything. We're then pulling down those ideas to those 3 elements and actually just prototyping those, so that you're then looking at how they work, and then you've either got 3 ideas to integrate in your business or 1 amazing standout idea to integrate into your business. Okay, hope that helps answer sort of that part of it a little bit.
Okay.
The business plan that I shared, yes, that was my own format. That's the business model canvas that I use. But I mean, they are widely available on the internet. You can pretty much Google business model canvas. Everybody has a variation of that type of thing. And am I saying that design thinking would help retain customers? Yes, I am, because you are taking the customer on the journey with you. And I go back to the Jeff Bezos and Amazon example of that, is that he has retained the majority of customers that bought books from Amazon when it was just selling books. They now have Amazon Prime and they stream things from there. Other bigger companies now use Amazon Logistics because they saw how good Amazon was with that. And that just again started from that one wild and crazy idea. We're doing this for ourselves. Well, let's prototype this. Let's see if we can do this for other businesses. And Amazon Logistics now provide, well, logistics, delivery services and such like for some of the biggest companies around the globe. So yes, it definitely helps you to retain them because you are actually taking your customer on the journey with you. They're feeling heard and they're feeling valued.
Thank you so much, Lucy. So ladies, if you want to speak, I'll take the next question shortly. Ladies, if you want to speak, you can just raise up your hand and then I'll give you access to speak. So whilst we wait for that, oh, Joy is saying, wow, awesome. She says, thank you to Lou.
You're welcome.
All right, Trish is asking, could you just take, your explanation on minimal viable products? She says she missed the explanation in that.
Yeah, sure. Minimal viable product is the collection of things that you need to have in place to make sure that your product solves the problem of your customer and is saleable. It's the minimal amount of input your organization needs to put into that product to make it still solve a problem and make it saleable. So it's the most simplified version of what you do that will still make you money. Okay.
I love that explanation. Yeah, and just to add, right, one of the things Lucy started with was, failing fast and failing forward, right? So when you're launching a product, you want to launch the most basic, right? So that you don't lose money, you don't lose time. Business is about speed. The macroeconomy is changing so fast. You cannot wait for forever to get the best product, right? Before launching out. So just launch out. Launch out whatever you have.
If you wait until you've got a product that is all singing and all dancing, you have created something without asking anything about any of your customers what they think of it. So you could spend 1 year getting to a minimal viable product, or 5 years getting to this amazing product, then launch it and have your customers go, I don't need half of the things that does. I'd have much preferred this minimal viable product. Launch the minimal viable product and then go on that journey through design thinking with your customers so that they're telling you what they need and you're just adding in the things that you know will make that product more saleable in future.
Okay. So and another question that has come up is, using that example that you gave about Henry Ford, about how what the customers really would have asked for would have been a faster horse, right? But Henry Ford came up with a car. How do you anticipate customers' needs even before they realize? And that's the same thing that Apple did. Right? Yeah. How do you anticipate customers' needs even before they realize that they actually have those needs?
If you are empathy mapping your customers, you are already aware of what they're saying about your own product or service, but you're aware about what they're saying about how it fits in their lives. So you're aware of what other things are happening in their lives that are also causing them pain. So you can kind of say, I sort of go back to the sort of Netflix sort of way of looking at things, is Netflix originally started by sending out DVDs to people. You used to type into the internet. I don't even know whether Google was a thing then. You would type into the internet the film you wanted to see, and Netflix would pop it in the post to you. You had a week or something to watch it, send it back, leave them a review. That then became a problem for customers. We were all getting more used to the internet, providing things on a I want it now and I want it yesterday kind of basis. So the waiting for the DVD to come in the post was no longer working for a lot of their customers. But because they were listening to what customers were saying, and because they were aware of what other things in their lives were affecting customers, they were able to go, right, we need to get this more immediate. We need an immediate solution to this. So Netflix, as we know it currently, as the streaming service, was born. And that is where the empathy mapping comes in. That is where really knowing your user persona, which I know we didn't cover in this, but you've mentioned it and you've said they had a sort of a session on that, really dig deep into that user persona that you've created and really make sure that you are aware of what other things affect their lives, because those other things are affecting their decision-making process. And that decision-making process is integral to getting them to buy your product or service. And I think that's key, to sort of knowing what they want before they realise what they are wanting.
Yeah, thank you for that. And, you know, that leads me also to the next question that I've seen. I mean, but before I ask that question, one thing about, I want to tell all the participants that, you know, design thinking is not something you do in a rush, right? I expect that you take some time, and this has to do with a lot of time reflecting, engaging with your customers. And most importantly, I'd like you to get feedback from your coaches. That's why they are there, right? Get feedback from your coaches from the output of your design thinking so that they can give you insights from their experience, right? On whether you're on the right path or what you can add or delete as from the outcome of your design thinking process. Okay, all right, so listen, this is my own question now before I take you know, the next question. Say, from your experience working with the startup founders, startup entrepreneurs, to utilizing the design thinking methodology, what would you say is the biggest problem that you see that startup entrepreneurs, especially female founders, what they face in using this methodology effectively?
They come and they try to solve the wrong problem. Would be a very, you know, don't even have to think about that one. But basically, people, as human beings, we're very, as I said before, you know, we see a problem, we want to throw a solution at it. And sometimes the problem that we're seeing is not the actual root cause of the problem. So we need to just take a step back. And I think that generally, and if there are any men on this call, I'm not sure,
no,
but right.
No
Well, please, nobody go and tell on me to any of their best friends or anything of the other gender. But if, as women, we are generally more empathetic to other people. We see somebody in pain, we see somebody hurting, we want to put our arms around them, we want to care for them, we want to be able to make their life better. But we have to take that step back and we have to give them the opportunity to make their own life better. So coming straight in with a solution that you think is a solution is where I see a lot of female founders and entrepreneurs fail early on, because this is where they need to get the customer involved. They need to kind of take that step back and think, right, is that the actual cause of the problem? If anybody has ever used an interactive problem tree, that's a great starting point. Put what you think is the problem in the center and just work out what's causing that problem. You add that further out, what's causing those problems, and you just continue back over from what you think the problem is. I have a copy of one that is interactive that I can share with people if need be, but it is the most, if you Google it again, it's the most simple of tools, but it will really make sure that you are, solving the correct problem before you get too far down the line and you've invested time, energy, money, and then thought, oh heck, it's not even this, it's that people are worried about.
Absolutely, you're so right. And when you look at solving problems, right, you'll realize that, the more problems that you solve, right, the more opportunities that open up for you to solve other problems, right? So you solve one problem and then you see another problem and you say, oh wow, I didn't think about this, right? And that's why I always say at the heart, all entrepreneurs, the only thing that you do is to solve problems. And the day you realize that as an entrepreneur, you're just making money from solving problems for people, that is it. That's where the money is.
And that's where the sort of, you end up with a nice blended portfolio of revenue streams, because one problem you've solved leads to tweaking it slightly, and you've created a solution to another problem. So you get this lovely blended way of not all your income coming from one place. So if that dries up, you still have these other opportunities available to you. And again, that's the beauty part that ideating, prototyping, testing, brings to the process.
All right, let me take this next question, and I'll just share an experience, also looking at our organization, Paywe, and how we started and where we are today. So Ayonda Ngwenya, I think you'll be from East Africa. She's asking, she says, thank you for the session. So she's just finished formulation of her natural and chemical-free deep conditioner. So she's asking, would it be advisable for her to give it first to her customers for them to try out, to see the feedback, and then launch it properly?
If you have a current sort of core set of customers and you're already working with them for other products, if you see those people that buy from you regularly, then yes, that would be fantastic. Send them a sample, ask them for feedback. Remember, though, that they are not going to be looking for the same feedback as you are necessarily, okay? So be very clear with them what you need. Send them a set of stipulated questions, sometimes using the word advice instead of feedback, because we all love to give advice, whereas feedback can sometimes seem too critical. But be very clear with them what you require. You get a sample, we need this from you, can you answer these questions within this time frame? Okay, and I think then obviously if you've gone and you've finished formulation and such like, by the time that formula is finished, consider that if you get negative feedback, what kind of time, energy and money are you going to have to spend to go back through and kind of, whatever the technical science term is, to rejig that formulation. So it might be that you're too far through a process, if you just know you don't have any additional money and time and energy to put to it. But if you do, then go to your core customers, see who buys from you regularly, use it as a bit of a, oh, this is our thank you to this. Thank you to you for being such amazing customers in the past. We're about to launch this. You're getting first eyes on it. We'd love to know what you think. Please answer these questions within a set time frame.
All right, thank you so much, Lucy. And talking about how we started, right? So we had our curriculum, and we just had that curriculum, and we wanted to repeat the curriculum year in, year out. But then I then realized that, for many entrepreneurs, the problem wasn't just the knowledge, it was the mindsets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everything lies in the mindsets. Especially for female entrepreneurs, it's all about mindset. And that's why repeatedly now, we've always, the first session in this cohort for any cohort is always the mindset, right? Because we believe, or I've seen that once you deal with the mindset, every other thing else, falls into place. Everything else falls into place. And that's just one of the so many, changes, right, that we have made. We're definitely a totally different organization from when we started, right? We made so many, changes, but that's just one simple example. And to say you just need to constantly embrace change, constantly evolve, because there was a time I was working for one of the largest telcos in Africa, MTN, and my boss then used to say, we innovate or die. The day we stop to innovate is the day we die as the largest telco in Africa.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think people always think, they always associate design thinking with innovation, when in actual fact, if you get just used to using the mindset of design thinking and the methodologies that are involved, innovation is like a happy byproduct. but it's not the sole aim of it. You're not kind of putting pressure on yourself to come up with something new. You're actually looking at what's needed and coming up with that. Yeah.
No, but I think it also then depends on what you term as innovation, because a simple rejigging of the process is innovation, right? There's no way you will do design thinking and you do it right that you will not make some changes. Changes in, no matter how small the change is, it could be in the product, it could be in the customer experience, right? It could be anything, right? There has to be a change, because as human beings, your customers, our needs are always changing, right?
Well, I mean, there's that, isn't there? But then there's the fact, like, I'm not right 100% of the time. So if I look at what I'm doing in my business and think it's all perfectly fine, then I'm lying to myself, you know? So you should always kind of want to make sure that you are constantly refining what you're doing and making it better, making it simpler for you, making it better for the customer.
Fantastic. Okay, so ladies, do you have any questions so that we don't keep Lucy waiting? She should be resting. She's taken so much to be here. So in the absence of any other question, I'd like to say a very big thank you, Lucy, for taking the time to teach me also, because I'm learning a whole lot, right, from this. And I'm definitely going to do the entire process again. You know, I've just made up my mind that I'll map out that process, right, for Paywin as an organization, so that we are better, so that we help you also achieve your aim. Because, right, if we are better, our beneficiaries are better, and you will be happier that you've been able to contribute so much into the change and into the lives of so many African women on the continent. So we say a very big thank you to you. Ladies, please don't forget to connect with her on LinkedIn. You can just go to LinkedIn, and that was what I did. Just go to LinkedIn and type in her name, Lucy Patterson, and you will see her live. She has the same face, right? So once you just
this is what I look like.
This is what she looks like on LinkedIn. All right, thank you so much, Lucy, and do enjoy the rest.
Thanks ever so much for having me, ladies, and I wish you the absolute, the best with your future endeavours and whatever it is that you're wanting to do once you finish with the Power Training Company, the training program rather. Fantastic, great to be here.
All right, thank you so much, and bye, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.